What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Chaotic Minds. As always, it's Winged.
And the midget.
And we're back for another fun-filled episode of Chaotic Minds.
You know, we keep putting off one thing.
What's that?
The feel-good stories.
Yeah, there is. I know.
And I think after the week we've had, I think it's going to be next week. And then we'll do...
Next week, I can look this up right meow.
Okay, if you insist. Well,
I do insist.
While we are waiting on the feel-good stories, I will just do a short little snippet story of kind of what's been on my mind this week. So, as some of you may know, we live in a wonderful state called Colorado. Colorado is
and if
known...
you don't know, well, now you know. You know.
Colorado is known for its fun-filled weather. If you don't like the weather, wait 5 minutes. It will probably change. The weathermen probably aren't going to guess right. And really don't trust the weathermen when they say 100% chance of this or 60% chance of that. Just go outside, look up, smell. The smell's kind of like naturey. Good. That's rain. If it smells kind of like your freezer, it's probably going to snow. But it can get too cold to snow, as Winged has found out since he has moved here to this lovely abode. Anyway, my point about all of it is snow days when we were kids. They were very few and far between. It had to be a combination of a bunch of different shit in order to get a free snow day off of school. You know? It seems like when we were kids, we had a snow day only if there was like 18 inches of snow already on the ground by the time we had to leave in the morning. And it had to be below zero. So, and then we had to watch the stupid news and watch that little ticker on the bottom. Now, they so much as think that there's a major storm like Thursday and Friday coming in, then it ends up being, oh, we better cancel school. One time they already did that this year, and there was barely anything, and then they felt like asshats. This time, though, holy crap, we got dumped on. We got about 18 to 24 inches in different places in the city in 24 hours, which, granted, for some states, it's like, whatever, 24 hours. We can do that in 2. But I am glad that they did cancel school Thursday and today. Well, Friday. It's now Saturday. Overnights. Weird things. Anyway, so I'm glad that they did cancel school. Keep everybody safe. But at the same time, I'm like, you lucky bastards. Y'all get more days off of school for whatever reason. They could have a teacher in the school be nominated for the Nobel Prize, and they would cancel school for a week in celebration. They're looking for an excuse to close the school so everybody can get some well-needed rest. Which on one hand is great. On the other hand, I love my children, but seriously, go away. No, really, we do love our kids. But it seems kind of weird to me that they get snow days at the drop of a hat now instead of, having to wake up at 5:30, watch the bottom of the news tracker, see if your school pops up because they listed it individually, and then they started listing it by district, and it's just like, these kids nowadays get a text message the night before if school gets canceled. So, I don't know. What do you think?
Well, back home, we got snow days semi-frequently, especially if it was like really bad snow, because a lot of the kids who would get around would have to get around via like a school bus. And some of the kids weren't, like, they lived in like back road areas. So if the school district determined that they weren't able to get some of the kids from those back road areas, those hilly areas, via bus, that they were just going to close school for the day. Now that's what it was like for me back home. Now there were several times where it's like we got like a good 3, 4, 5 inches of snow, and school still was going on, and we're like, why are we coming to school in this? But um, I don't think we've ever had. What I will say is, I don't think we've ever had a time where school was closed because it was too cold. Like our school district's heaters were, it felt like they were always on blast. Like even in the summer, because we didn't have AC. Um, so it was always hot in school, and so it's just like, I don't know. School days,
Yeah.
school days for me back when I was growing up was like you relished them because you go outside and play with your friends, but like with how my family, how my parents raised us, before you could go ahead and play, you had to make sure that the front walk was shoveled, the driveway was shoveled. When we lived, in a more suburban area, you had to make sure that the sidewalk in front of your house was shoveled, because otherwise the city would come through and be like, "Hey, you didn't shovel your sidewalk for the snow. You're gonna get a fine." But we did all that just to make things easier for my mom, because even though my mom grew up in New England, my mom doesn't drive in snow very well.
Not a lot of us do. I don't
I drive in snow
like
great.
I drive in snow well, but the problem is other people don't share that
Well,
same sentiment.
I drive in snow great. But I mean, like it was. I think the worst that we had that I can like when I was in high school, the worst storm that we had that we closed school. My mom still had to go to work, and we lived out in like the middle of nowhere. Where like I made the joke that there were more deer than people. When she went to go to work, the neighborhood that we were in was kind of hilly, and the old Buick that we had, and when I say old Buick, I mean like this thing was like early 90s Buick, and this was back in like the 2000s.
Okay.
The engine block cracked. And we had to help her get the car back to the house, and she called her boss and I can't come in. What do you mean you can't come in? I'm working from home today, Steve. Piss off. And I love that interaction between my mom, or I love that part of my mom. It's where I get it from. It's like my mom don't care. She'll tell you where the sun rose and how to get there, and where the sun don't shine and how to get the sun to shine there. But she's just.
She reminds me of the type of person that if she was a nurse in an ER and she had somebody mouthing off, she'd take one of those pens that has the fake flower attached and stick it up somebody's ass to take their temperature.
Wouldn't surprise me.
And just leave it there with a flower blooming out their ass.
Would not surprise me if that was ever the case. But my mom doesn't do blood and puke and all that just like me. So she wouldn't be able to be a nurse.
No.
Like she had to deal with it enough when we were growing up. Coming in, Mom, I threw up. But she was squeamish. Like, that whole, like, acting like the dry heaves? That,
yeah.
Like, you hate it when I do it?
Yeah.
She's worse.
Yeah.
Like, you know how, like, you have to clear your throat in order to, like, get something out of your throat and then you spit it? You hawk a loogie?
Yeah.
You even do the sound of hawking it up, and she's turning green. And, like, I swear to God, if you keep doing that, that is disgusting. I will backhand you. And meanwhile, you're in the living room. She's in the kitchen. It don't matter. You stop, because she will hit you from the kitchen. My mom's got that arm, the typical Italian grandmother, the 80-mile radius. She don't care where you're at. She'll reach it. Like, you won't even see her, and this arm will come out of, like, from behind the corner up underneath the couch and smack you in the back of the head. Not really, but my mom's awesome.
Yeah. We love you.
I love my mom. So I do have a couple of stories.
Okay.
To make you feel good.
Ooh.
I'm gonna save the last one or the most recent one I found for last because it's real good. This one's short, but um, the last one is a rather long one with an update. So, all right. So, breakfast at a small restaurant. This happened a couple years ago, and I just remembered it. OP had just gotten off of work and had gotten paid, and they were sleepy. Yet I still wanted breakfast because being in a factory for 12 hours staring at cakes and whatnot kind of makes you hungry. I'm sitting at a table close to the door, literally struggling to stay awake while I eat some breakfast before heading home and pass out. I finish it and grab my ticket so I can pay. The lady tells me someone already paid for me. So thanks for whoever was in that bustling restaurant in between the two bars and the barbers. Edit, I forgot to mention that I probably had dry batter all over my arms. Shit gets messy when shit hits the fan.
That's kind of cool. See, I like stories like that where you can, if you're able to pay for somebody's meal at a restaurant. But the thing is I'm also that type of asshole where I've been in the service industry and keeping track of that shit sometimes can get daunting.
Yeah.
So, like, if I'm in a drive-thru and they say somebody has paid for my items, would I like to pay for the next person's items? I tell them, unfortunately, right now I can't. And sometimes the look on their face is just, oh, thank God. Like, because sometimes those things go on for hours.
There was a story back home a couple years ago that it was an act of kindness. Somebody, first thing in the morning when this Starbucks opened up, went ahead and paid it forward for the person behind them. And it literally went from when they opened to when they closed. And it was just like, Jeebus. Like, don't get me wrong, it's nice to get that and all that, but there are times where you can't pay it forward. Like, you have enough to pay to get what you're getting at the restaurant. And then you you say that same thing, like, unfortunately I can't right now. And the looks that the service workers give you is just like, really?
Some of them, but most of them are thankful when you break a chain like that that's been going for a long time, because it, like I said, it's really hard to keep track of. We had that go on for almost a full shift at Waffle House when I was working there, and it was just like, oh, good God. Like, and I was thankful that we had a bunch of asshole teenagers in at night, because it was right after prom, and they came in after prom and whatnot to grab a bite to eat. And I knew that they were probably not going to do a pay it forward type deal. And I was actually hoping that they would break the chain, because it's so exhausting, because then you don't know when it's going to end. You have to keep track of who was paid for already and stuff like that, especially in fast food places or drive-thrus, that type of stuff. It's really hard to, like, deal with and keep track of. And who's to say, like, the person in front of me paid for me. I had one drink. I had my caramel macchiato. And the person behind me had, like, 2 adults in the front and, like, 2 teenagers in back.
Yeah.
So that's guaranteed 4 drinks, plus if they were eating snacks.
Yeah.
So that's quite a bit of money.
And that's where it comes into, you know, there are times where it's been like, you know, I've been a part of that pay it forward kind of thing, and I have enough to get me my sandwich and a drink, and that's it. And that's like, there was a point in time where I was spending like, it was like $3 plus tax. So I'm expecting just to pay $3 and all that. And so you go ahead and you get told, oh, hey, by the way, the person in front of you already paid it for you. That's great. I now have $3 for lunch, you know, or I have $3 for dinner, or, you know,
to go towards a pack of cigarettes, like,
yeah, something like that.
You
know, and then just to look at some of these people's faces, just like, excuse you, why are you not paying it forward? Bitch, I have enough to pay for myself. Like, what the fuck you mean?
I can barely afford to pay for me.
Like, I am running on fumes. or getting close to running on fumes, both in my vehicle and mentally. I do not have the mental capacity to deal with your bullshit.
Yeah, and I mean it's kind of a toss up which end of that spectrum you're gonna get. So I don't know.
All right, next one. This one was back in 2019. So it says, I started 2019 not knowing what it had in store for me. I was midway through year 11 at the time and was very stressed. Admittedly, the year at the start wasn't the best, and the exam stress really got to me sometimes, but I had a blast since then. It was the last proper year me and my secondary schoolmates hung out before we all went to different colleges. I had a huge break during the year where I went to summer camp with some of my friends, and I got a job, so I earned my own money for the first time ever, which is awesome. One fond memory from the year was going to see Avengers Endgame with my entire group of secondary school friends, which was really cool since there was like 16 of us that went. I've also been quite overweight, and I managed to gain the confidence to go to the gym and eat healthier. I managed to lose over 2 stone, and I unfortunately put on a lot of weight due to recent lockdown since gyms have been closed, but I've tried my best to keep exercising. Back in 2019, I also started college during this year, or back to 2019. I also started college this year, and I found out that I did really well overall in my GCSEs. I met some new friends at college whilst still staying in contact with my OG mates from school. I ended the year really nicely as well because me and my dad went to a local city and bought loads of things since they were cheap from Boxing Day sales. And we went to IKEA on the way back, which was awesome. Overall, it was truly a great year for me. I didn't have the worst 2020, but at the same time, it wasn't the best for current world reasons. But I'm trying to be hopeful and optimistic for 2021. Have a nice day. So, if you couldn't tell, this person's from the UK.
Stone is 15 pounds, by the way.
Sure. Hang on real quick.
To what? My horses. I don't know. That was a pretty cute story. I mean, it's like it's a really cool little thing. And I mean, stress can get to people, and you know, we all went through that period of lockdown regret where we're like, ew. And then by the time lockdown was lifted, we're like, oh, thank God. But now I don't want to go anywhere. So, I mean, I don't know. It is, I guess that story is more of a, I understand where this person is coming from because we've had pretty similar kind of, you know, experiences with it.
I mean, lockdown when it happened sucked. Like, I'm not gonna deny that. It sucked for a lot of people because they weren't able to get out and all that. It sucked for me because I had to still work.
Well, not only that, but I mean, lockdown for us was really weird because, like,
I was technically considered an essential. Like,
and so was I. I worked
essential
at a gas station
because I worked for AAA at the time.
Yeah.
So we had to make sure that we were getting out to, you know, get these paramedics and firefighters and police officers and all that going if they needed it, you know.
Yeah. But it also sucked for those in abusive situations that, you know, can't get out.
Yeah, there is that. 2020 was definitely weird.
But yeah, I mean, it just, for some people, lockdown was great. Gave them an opportunity to spend more time with family. Gave them an opportunity to do some like crafty stuff that they've been wanting to try. And then there's others that have craft herpes overload where they are like so overwhelmed with different crafty stuff, and people started learning how to make sourdough. I mean, that's when you know you're desperate. You're like, I'm going to learn a new thing to really mess with my mind and hope to God I'm doing it right because I don't want to waste the resources that we have because getting them is hard. And I remember when everything was shut down for that first 2 weeks when we didn't know what the hell was going on, and they stopped everything. Like I didn't go to work for 2 weeks, and you didn't go to work for like 7 days, and then they were like, "Well, we need AAA because of this, this, and this." And then there's days where it was like after that part of it was lifted, and we had 3 kids home alone and
Well, no,
all day.
like when they first were talking about shutting down everything, we were explicitly told that, yeah, they're shutting down everything. You know, everyone's going to be on lockdown. You still have to come in. Like, and if you get pulled over by the police of while you're driving, here's a note that you give them saying that you're essential. Like, we didn't get that.
Yeah.
Like, I stayed home those initial 7 days because I was not feeling well.
Yeah, and that's
My
when
whole
they
thing
were
was
really bad.
I had a classic case of laryngitis.
Yep, I remember that. And then you ended up with the flu at
Yep.
the same time. Yep. It's kind of crazy. So I mean, I don't know. It just kind of, now that life has gone back to quote unquote normal, it's really
There is no normal. There is no normal. Like, what do you mean
it's really
normal?
weird because now people are like, we should go on lockdown again. We should go remote for everything, and that. And I'm just
Which,
like,
I mean,
ew,
here's the
no,
thing.
I'm good.
Here's the thing with remote. Is it nice? Absolutely. Being able to work from home, you save gas, you save aggravation from,
Being stuck in traffic.
driving around. You don't have to worry about, getting into car accidents. Provided that you keep your productivity up. There are several places that it's like, if you don't keep your productivity up, then you're not going to be able to be either still employed here or continuing with remote work. And that's understandable, because if you're staying at home the entire time, you're going to fall into the habit of, I don't want to do a whole lot today because I just want to laze around.
Yeah. Or that procrastination complex where you're like,
Yeah.
I can do it later. I have
Because
the time.
I'm here.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you don't have that socialization. Human beings are social creatures. Like, even introverts talk to people. Even introverts talk with extroverts or other introverts, talk to people online in forums or on games or stuff like that. We crave human interaction.
But the good thing is during lockdown, sorry to interrupt, but good news about lockdown is a lot of good friendships came out of those like online gaming communities.
I'm not denying that. But at the same time, when you're stuck when you're locked down or you're only working remote, right? You don't have that opportunity to build these relationships or to continue to build relationships. And a lot of, issues with, like, there was a study that was done earlier this year. I can't remember what exactly the study, like who did the study, but it was showing that people, like, who we would consider kids, weren't falling in love as often or as much, or they were okay with being single, but more, over being in a relationship at the same time period that, like, our generation, was looking for relationships or stuff like that. And granted, that's not necessarily a bad thing, because human population, holy shit. So, less and less people, and this is the cynic side of me, and I apologize, but like less and less people falling in love and having kids means there are less people in the world. You got to combat that, though, because you don't want there to be a generation where they don't have any kids or they have little kids, because then the human race can go extinct or whatever.
Yeah, they said the same thing about the bees. If all the honeybees die, then the humans will fall shortly after.
But you still want to make sure that people are building these connections, and without having the social interaction of going to a physical building to go work or going to a physical building to go to school, going to a physical building to go to a therapist or, something like that, it can run the risk of creating this isolation pocket that people find themselves in,
and then
they
can't get out.
ever get out, and they get depressed.
And see, and that's the thing is, like, you miss those work relationships too. Like, I know during lockdown and stuff, when I was at Roadhouse, it was really weird because
You couldn't see your work wife?
I couldn't see any of my work buddies. Like, because
especially your work wife.
Well, even when we went back, we couldn't work side by side together. We couldn't work, doing something. I had one corner booth where I was literally doing nothing but prepping and dishing out the cinnamon butter.
Yeah.
And I
rolling
came
silverware.
and I came out smelling like the cinnamon butter all the time, which is
really good.
It's delicious. But at that point I was like so tired of the cinnamon butter. And
that was like me when I was having to make the chocolate covered the chocolate covered peanut butter eggs at the bakery that I was telling you about.
But yeah, and I mean, we were all 6 foot or more apart, typically way further apart than that. There was one person on the grill, one person on the fry station, one person on dishes, one person doing the butter, one person packaging the meals up to go for people that were in kind of a drive-through line. There was 2 people at that station, one for payments and one a little further down where we had the food. And it was just like, and even if you did talk, it was, you were so far apart, and then hugs went away, and, high fives went away, and all this, that, and the other. And it's just like, it's crazy because now we're at a point where everything seems to be quote unquote normal, but now it's getting to the point where there's talks that there might be another shutdown, and I'm just like, great. And then what are we going to do? Because you and I are both essential.
Yeah, so we're still going to have to work.
Yeah, we're still going to have to work. And I mean,
story of my life. Hey, this whole thing is happening. That's going to affect everyone except for us. We're not great.
Yeah. And I mean, the upside to lockdown was the fact that we became closer as a family. We were able to do more things as a family. Granted, it was stuck at home, but, we were able to do things as a family and hang out and watch movies and TV and all this, that, and the other together.
And I started a campaign for us that we then scrapped. Started a new campaign for us that we scrapped.
Yeah, it's kind of a back and forth thing with that.
And now I'm working on a third one
that our neighbors across the hall may be interested in joining.
That I have yet to announce.
But the thing is like that part was great. But then again, the 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, all being stuck inside the house together is just like, God, I will kill these people if they do not go away.
Yes and no, because we still...
And then they couldn't even go to their dad's.
We still went outside. Like, granted, it was just out to our parking lot, but we still went outside. We still got fresh air. We cracked open windows, We still had all that. And there are plenty of stories that were coming out of that, of, like, police officers or police, precincts that were going, like, door to door, making sure that people were okay. Celebrating people's birthdays by doing drive-bys and, having their lights
Not
going.
the traditional drive-bys where you shoot everybody.
Not like the one, but, like, more like the, hey, we're coming by to wish you happy birthday. Whoop, whoop,
Drive
there's your
through
lights.
baby showers, man.
Yeah, you
Drive
know,
by baby showers.
humans are
Resilient.
are resilient and innovative, which is fantastic
Yeah.
because we can come up with ways of getting around certain procedures or making doing stuff different ways. Like there was one that I saw that was like at a senior center where the seniors, like, people would volunteer and they would go up to these boots, this little piece of like PVC pipe that went up and around, and there was plastic that was hanging down, and inside the plastic were like sandblaster gloves where you stick your arm through and like you can manipulate stuff, and they were doing hugs. Like, people were going through, they had a set of gloves going one way, a set of gloves going the other way, and these people would go ahead and slip their arms into these, have the plastic in between them, and they were, making sure that we still had that human connection, which is genius. Like, we wouldn't have never thought about that.
No.
You know.
But then the depression factor, like you said, being stuck in a place where you really can't do a whole lot.
Yeah, being
and
stuck,
not being able to see your family.
seeing the same four walls. Every day.
And I have to say, the biggest disaster and the most tragic piece of that entire lockdown was remote learning. Like, that was so...
Our kid's teacher got fired on the first day for drinking on the job.
Yep, I brought home a strawberry margarita because fuck that. I was drinking on the job. No, and that was before all the teachers and the Zoom classes and stuff like that. And it's like, we had to adapt to a new way of life during lockdown, and it was crazy, but at the same time it was like, holy shit, this is a pretty cool way. And
yeah, I mean that goes back.
It took them 3.5 weeks. They were on spring break for 3.5 weeks instead of the normal 7 days, just so that they could get everything set up. And then it's just like, it was crazy.
Well, and then, like I said, that goes into the human ingenuity part of it. Like, before this, Zoom was not a thing.
Or it was. It was just more business meetings.
Well, no, like most people were using Skype. Doing Skype group calls and stuff like that. I mean, they made a horror movie about it, where it was a bunch of kids who were, having a multi people conversation via Skype, and then Skype was just not able to handle everything.
And Omegle blew up during that time.
Yeah, and then so that's why Zoom came about, was because it was another way of having these meetings or having these classes with the size of the classes and not overloading everything. And it was fantastic.
And I mean, it sucked too, because some students had left their Chromebooks at school to, be worked on or get a new charger or stuff like that. So they didn't have a way until for that first 3.5 weeks. And then they're like, okay, if you're a student that doesn't have your Chromebook, you need to respond to this email. And 99% of those kids have phones, so they were able to respond and say, hey, I don't have my Chromebook. And then they'd arrange a specific 15-minute time where they could come get their stuff out of their locker, their Chromebook,
or
pick the charger, and that type of stuff. Or
if they didn't keep anything in their locker, some of the teachers would go ahead and make home deliveries. Like, they would put the box out in front of the door, let them know, hey, I'm here, wait to open your door up. They would open the door, that stuff would be there, the teacher would be standing, on the sidewalk or down the hall or somewhere, 6 feet away, and smile and wave and said, hey, here's your stuff, here's what you need,
There were teachers that went even above and beyond that. Like, Miss Barnello was a huge part of our lockdown because we weren't working, and because I wasn't working and you were working, but it was like a weird schedule.
Everything that I was making was going toward
making sure
that
we
we still
rent.
had this, and we had groceries and power.
And so it was a lot for one person on the income of AAA, and Like, she would bring care packages by of, like, boxes of, like, non-perishables, and, like, she would be bringing all kinds of stuff, like snacks. And then they started doing, okay, each of these families have a 15-minute window where they can come to the school, pick up actual lunches and stuff like that. And that was really cool.
Yeah. It sucks,
Yeah.
but look at what good people, like,
On the other
communities
side
are
of
doing.
struggle is strength.
Yeah. That's a
Yep.
good way of putting it. All right. Next story. Highlight of my day, this one's called. I was 12 years old when I had my first crush on this good-for-nothing guy, and my father happened to come across this little card that I had made with a heart around his name plus my name. Typical 12-year-old girl stuff. Ever since then, I haven't had the close relationship with my father. We have a healthy relationship, but have never been particularly close to the level of sharing what ails us. We have the occasional chat over breakfast early morning. Since the pandemic happened, I've been working from home and I'm not the greatest at MS Office. Today I got stuck trying to subtract 2 dates and asked him for help. I usually work in bed, my room being a very sacred place in my home. He got into bed beside me to help me. For that whole 20 minutes he sat close to me teaching me how to do what I needed and then some more. It took me back to when I was younger and he would teach me math, and even though we didn't talk about feelings at the time was precious and I connected with him as a human being. As an adult, I rarely ask him for help, but when I do, I feel so safe knowing he's going to get me the help I asked for.
Aww, that's cute.
That's nice. That's so sweet.
Yeah, it's nice to have a little bit of help from your parents.
Yeah. All right. And the last one. Now there is an update. The first post was made back in 2022 from another subreddit called R Off My Chest. R Off My Chest, in case you don't know, is people go on there and they confess things just to get it off their chest. You know, it could be anything, something small like, hey, I shoplifted from this store and I felt really bad, you know, yada yada, to I have a whole secret family and a whole nother, you know, life that I live, but I still keep this one around, or the first one, you know, stuff like that, right? This is not one of those ones. So, but today my wife met my girlfriend. Now, before you get all uppity,
Okay.
listen to the story. I, 32 male, am a widow. My wife passed away from pancreatic cancer 5 years ago. She was forced to leave behind our 2 kids, 10 and 7. They're both boys. My wife was the absolute light of my life. We were high school sweethearts, went to the same college, and got married after graduation. We were inseparable. Every day I fell more in love with her. It was like my heart was living outside of my body. When she passed, the amount of pain I was in was indescribable. I prayed to go to sleep and not wake up just that way I could see her one last time. I contemplated meeting her, but every time I was ready, my kids would look at me. They had her face, her personality, her DNA. I couldn't leave them. They were all I had left of her. It took years before I was able to function normally again. I even quit my job and lived off of savings and her life insurance for about a year. I was half the dad I used to be and only a fraction of my former self. 2 years after her passing, I decided enough was enough and kicked myself into gear. I found a job in a different city, closer to my parents. I packed my kids up and I moved. Life was hard, but I kept chugging along and eventually I found some joy. A year after moving, I took a business trip to New York where I met my current girlfriend. While I acknowledged there was chemistry, I told her that I was already married and she understood. However, a few months later, I had to go back to New York where we met up again. I let my guard down for the first time around her. Before I knew it, she was putting in a transfer to my home branch and moving to my city. I fell in love with her and asked her out a year ago next month. My kids adore her, and though she reminded them that she will never take their mom's place, they lovingly call her Mama L. Today was the anniversary of my wife's passing, an extremely hard day for us. This morning I'm getting feelings, yo. Whew.
I don't want to catch him. Stay away.
If I start crying, I apologize. This morning I walked into the living room to find Elle and my kids waiting for me. The kids were dressed in their church clothes with goofy smiles on their faces and bouquets in hand. Apparently, Elle came up with the idea of a picnic at my wife's grave, an idea that the boys loved as they enjoy going to see their mom. While I was sleeping, they prepared food and flowers, then insisted on wearing their best clothes. I'll admit I cried at the sight of them. I don't know how I got this lucky twice in a row. I wanted my wife to meet this amazing woman, so I asked Elle to come along, and she did. The day I dread every year turned out to be a humbling reminder of why I stayed on this planet. To my lovely wife, you can never be replaced, but she is good to me, and she takes care of our kids like you would. Thank you for sending her to me. Oh, and an update.
Before the update. Man,
Ooh.
that was a lot. Like, it was a good one.
Oh, boy. Okay. Update. Hi, everyone. First off, I want to thank you all for nice messages and replies. I can't thank you all enough. On to the update. I already had a profound appreciation for my girlfriend before I made that post, but the comments gave me an entirely new perspective. The night after I made that post, I took my girlfriend out to dinner, and I can't explain it, but the light I was viewing her in was different. Everything she did that night gave me butterflies. She was showing me pictures that she took at the aquarium with my oldest, and I couldn't stop staring at her. In that moment, I came to the conclusion that I was going to propose a lot sooner than I expected. A few days later, I went ring shopping with her mom, who was very excited, and we found the perfect ring. I then made I made a reservation at her favorite restaurant for last Friday and set the big day in motion. Long story short, I'm getting married again. As some of you said, promotions can wait, though after looking at our wedding ideas, I may need a promotion to financially recover, haha. I'm excited to start this journey with her and my amazing kids. As I said before, I'm so lucky. I hope you all find your own Lila, and thank you again.
She was sent. That woman was sent to him by his wife. 100%.
Oh boy.
Don't you think, though? I mean,
yeah.
She had to have been sent by the wife. There's no other explanation for that. She knew that he was in a dark place and wanted to be with her, and knew that those boys still needed him, and he gave her the gift of love, and that's huge. Even after death, if I die before you, still gonna haunt your ass, but I'm gonna be like, yo, it's okay, and find somebody that you can be with that will make you just as happy.
Oh boy. I am trying. I apologize. I'm trying to hold all this in because
he has feelings, y'all, and I love him.
I come across to a lot of people as some cynical asshole, who gets off on pissing people off or stuff like that. I'm not. I am
A giant teddy bear.
Seriously. I'm one of the most emotional people that a lot of people can meet. I love stories like this because you don't see that very often. Yeah, you'll see stories of people like, hey, I've been married for 15, 20 years and, I still love my wife, you know. But you don't ever, it's very, very rare to see love transcend life and death. Like, there's part of vows that are given that's like, till death do us part. And there are some people who, even after they're dead and their spouse is still around, still love that person so much that they send somebody like this. And oh, you talk for a bit. You talk for a bit, please.
Yeah, and I mean, it. Like I said, she was sent to him by his wife, which is which is huge because he knows, and he sees his wife every day and those boys, and they are going to grow up with somebody that's going to love them just as their own mother would have, and I think that's why she was chosen, and it's kind of a scary concept for me, eventually leaving our children behind. Granted, it's going to be many years down the road and they're all going to be adults. But, like, not being able to experience the heartbreak, the love, the whatever the case may be, who they end up with, if they end up marrying the same sex or they end up adopting or having kids of their own, that type of stuff. It's hard to think about not being around for that. But I would hope that if I am not around, they do have somebody that is around that can treat them and do the things with them that I would.
Okay, I'm back. Yeah, I mean, kids take things to a different level. Like, when I was growing up, I wanted to have kids because my dad, like, I'm the oldest of five, and my dad raised me and my sister like we were his. And when I was younger, and even now, I hope to be even a partial parent that he was. Was he the greatest? No, and he'll be the first one to tell you that. But he did a damn good job. And I can only hope that I can be.
He stepped up to take care of two kids that were not biologically his, and he didn't have to.
My dad's awesome.
And I think that's the best thing about step parents and adopted parents is that they don't have to love these children. They choose to love these children. You can't choose who your biological family is, but you can choose the family that you surround yourself with.
But like growing up as a kid, I was like, I want kids, I want to be a dad, just that way I can be like my dad and stuff like that. And it wasn't until you and our kids, because like the person who I dated before you, yeah, she had kids, but like they were like, oh, that's mom's boyfriend, that's me. Right? They didn't really like attempt to make. Most of them didn't attempt to make any sort of bond. The second youngest, she did. But with our kids, like it was almost immediate, and it was great. And it.
Granted, now they're teenagers, and
they're still great.
Yeah.
But it took my understanding of, or what I thought I knew about loving someone, and flipped it on its head and pretty much told me, you don't know shit. And now it's like I could not imagine my life without y'all. And having kids and having you is a gift for me because I have this family that I've helped make, granted not fully make, but I helped with the development and all that, you know. And knowing that this woman looks at those kids and those kids look at that woman and they're like, Mama L. And she's like, I'm not here to replace your mom because your mom is your mom. And they're still like, we know you're our bonus mom. You're Mama L. It's just
It's very heartwarming.
And
it's nice to see.
It is extremely nice to see. In a world that we live in now, where it's just like all you see is, people fighting people left, right, and center. Doesn't fucking matter where.
The hatred that spews out of pretty much everybody.
Seeing a story like this, granted it's 2 years old now, but seeing that there are still people and there are still these stories that are being made and that are coming, being put out there of like people taking care of people.
Stories like this restores my faith in humanity.
What little faith there is, but yes. This is a good idea.
Yeah.
This was a really good idea. doing the heartwarming stuff.
Yeah.
Maybe not the whole, me crying part, but I'll get you on one of these.
You catching feelings makes you tired, so it's a good thing.
I think we're gonna call it there, though. It's a rather short episode, or it's a shorter episode, not like
by 8 minutes. I mean, come on. Usually we shoot for an hour, and it's only 52 minutes.
But we're both tired, and we need to rest. So, with that being said, thank you all so much for listening. We really do appreciate it. If you are listening to us on Spotify and you want to show Spotify that you want to hear more, hit that download button. It lets them know, like, hey, we like these people. We want to hear more from these people. And so they do. And they let us know, and then we make awesome episodes like this. If you want to donate to the show, there is a link in the description. You don't have to. If you don't want to, if you can, that's great. If not, anything that, if not, then you're fine. Anything that does come in goes right back into the show. So, it's not like we're taking this and doing whatever. I did want to add that we have finally a social media presence. I am going to put the name and the link into the description as well. But we're on Blue Sky. Which is
a different social media platform.
Yeah, it's when Twitter/X started to go downhill, Blue Sky stepped up. It's like, hey, we're one that's not so filled with bots. So if you want to look us up on Blue Sky, like I said, I'll put the link in the description. You can follow the show. You can post questions or post comments or post, topics that you want to hear us talk about, all that kind of stuff. Just check the description, and I'll have it put in there. But as always, thank you all so much for listening. We really do appreciate it. Don't forget to love each other, and as always,
don't be a dick.
Don't be a dick.
Bye.